morning. How are you doing today? You enjoyed your Thanksgiving? Yeah. How many of you are Black Friday shoppers? 3 of you. That's good. All right, that's wonderful. I'm not really a Black Friday kind of a person. I'm more of a stay at home and eat more turkey kind of a person. That's my jam right there. My girls are like, turkey again? I'm like, hush, you don't know. So I'm not really a Black Friday person, and I think of Black Friday kind of like the Hunger Games. You guys know the movie, The Hunger Games? May the odds ever be in your favor. Like you battle everyone else, and your reward is like a $5 toaster, right? Like, yes, I've won. I am conqueror of the Hunger Games. Honestly though, it's easy to go a little overboard this season, isn't it? And now that we've got Black Friday, can you believe December is Tuesday of this week? Which reminds me, our first Wednesday is happening this week right here, 7 o'clock. You don't want to miss it. All right, so anyway, December 2nd. So, but I think of all the spending and the sprees and the financial side. Oh my gosh, it's enough to paralyze you, isn't it? I got this jingle stuck in my head. I've been listening to internet radio, and Walmart has this huge campaign on right now, and it's this little, like, Craig Robinson plays the piano. I don't know if you know who he is, and he's playing the piano, and he's like, Christmas shopping's hard this year, or no, Christmas shopping's getting hard, Walmart's got a credit card, and I'm like, whoa, like, he's got a what? Like, oh yeah, by the way, if you can't afford anything, don't worry, we'll give it to you on credit and make more money off of you, is what he's saying, right? And so this season, though, isn't it easy to do those kind of like, oh, well, it would be really easy to do that, and I think we should outdo last year, and we need a bigger tree this year, and bigger presents, and maybe we need to go on a vacation at the same time, and do all these things, and isn't it easy to kind of get stuck in the trap of Christmas, and all of a sudden, once you go through this next 4 weeks, you've got a built-in resolution for New Year's, which is get out of debt, right? Like you go in excess, and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm in 2016, but I still have to pay off 2015, and it's kind of crazy, right? And so what I would like to do today, we've been talking about generosity, and we've been talking about some organizations we've been supporting, some things we want to do in our city. We're supporting children and getting them back to school and feeding them Thanksgiving meals, and awesome stuff is happening in our city. We've been planting churches has been one of our goals, and we've also been helping kids overseas in Durban, South Africa, and 25 of them are going to be here next weekend with us. Isn't that pretty cool? That's pretty awesome. And so we've been raising money so we can support church planting and kids around the world and doing some awesome stuff. We've been doing that. Generosity is we've been talking about it, developing a heart of generosity. But what's crazy is I don't think anyone in here would go, you know what, I don't want to be generous. I don't want to be charitable. In fact, if non-Christian or not, Americans give about 3% of their income away. Christian or not. If you're a Christian, it's usually about 3.8%, which is a little disappointing if you ask me, whatever. But no matter what, there's not a person in the world that goes, you know what, you should be stingy, you should keep it all for yourself. Well, maybe there's a couple, but I'm sure it's not you guys. You're the good ones, okay? I know that. So there's not anyone in here that goes, I don't want to give, I don't want to support things, but many of us, don't we come to the position in life where we go, you know what, but I just can't afford it right now. You ever been there? Or is it things, I'm strapped, I don't know how. So what I thought we would do this morning, since we've been talking about generosity, I want to teach you how to be generous for just one weekend. Is that okay? And we're going to go to the numbers, and we're going to talk about numbers, but then after we're done with the numbers, we're going to go beyond the numbers. Beyond the numbers. And so we're going to start in the book of 1 Timothy. We're going to work our way down and through. So it's going to be more of a teaching than a preaching today. But I want to teach you a couple of things about God's word, what he says about numbers, and how to work beyond those numbers. Check it out. 1 Timothy chapter 6, verses 9 and 10 say this. People who want to get rich fall into temptation and a trap, and into many foolish and harmful desires that plunge men into ruin and destruction. Now, this sounds like a pretty devastating sentence if you have a lot of money, right? But it's not true. Don't worry about it. If you are rich, it's okay, which I think all of us in this room, we'd be considered rich, at least worldwide, wouldn't we? We are the 1%ers of the world. And so he says, people who want to get rich fall into temptation. What is he saying there? He says, we have a wrong motivation towards money. If we look at money in the wrong way, we're going to fall into temptation, and ultimately that will lead us to ruin and destruction. As your pastor, I do not want you to be ruined or destroyed, ever. So it's my job to teach you a proper view of money, because some of us, if we pursue money instead of God, it's going to eat our heart away, and we're going to lose our connection with him, and ultimately bring us into ruin and destruction. I don't want that for you. The verse continues like this, and you may have heard this verse before. For the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. You ever hear that one? For the love of money. What do we do? What does that mean? It means we're looking at money poorly, aren't we? We're putting money in the place of God. We love money instead of love God. And when we do that, man, it brings about a poor view of money, and then it changes the way we look at the world around us, and ultimately begins to rot away our heart. Some people, eager for money, have wandered from the faith and pierced themselves with many griefs. I'm sure when you one day tried to chase money instead of God, didn't it end poorly? And you ended up paying off that mistake for a long time, right? You got a little greedy, you got something else, you broke a relationship over something like that. We've all been there over those circumstances. And I don't want that to happen in our church. I don't want that to happen to you, because that's a poor view of money. We don't want that to happen to us. So what should our view be? Well, in the book of Luke, Jesus talks to us about how we should view money. We should view money as an investment of where our heart is going to go. Check it out. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. If I want my heart to be in Christ, in God, where do I have to put my treasure? In God. If I want my heart to be in my BMW, I can just put my money into my BMW. You got me? Right? I need to take some time and figure out where my treasure is going to go. Is it wrong to have a BMW? No. It's wrong if a BMW has you. Deal? Right? And so we want to make sure that our treasure is pointing our hearts towards God so that we make investments in his kingdom. So in order to do that, I'm going to take you to the numbers, and then we're going to go beyond the numbers. So there's two sections here, all right? The first one is numbers only. We're just going to talk straight numbers, and if I was your financial advisor without God in the equation, here's what I would teach you, okay? First one is, it all starts with this. It all starts with your earning, right? If you don't make money, can you do anything with money? No, you have to work, and you have to work hard. I think working is something that sometimes we forget about, don't we? Like, get a job, man, right? Like, if you can't make it, I've got a surefire plan to help you get out of debt. You need to make money to get out of debt, right? And I know sometimes my generation, I'm 33 and under, work is a forgotten talent, right? The work ethic isn't as strong as it was in previous generations. Thank God I had a dad that made me work with him in middle school, working on his business. Right? I mean, he pushed me. He goes, all right, school's out, coming with me, right? Maybe it's because he just didn't want to leave me at home alone or pay someone to watch us or summer camps or whatever. I don't know. But I know at the bottom line, I learned something from him. I learned how to work. And when I learned how to work, whether that was with my dad, with my stepdad, whether it was a job on my own, I worked and I worked and I worked, and I learned how to work from these great men in my life that were incredible workers. And ever since middle school, I've picked up jobs every summer between school. And during my school years through high school, my job was grades and then athletics. And that took like literally all day, every day, 5 days a week, and then Saturday mornings. And you're going, TJ, well, shouldn't you have been working at a job? No, because those things got me scholarship. And so those days that I invested in athletics and in academics got me scholarship. So I treated them like a job, and they paid off. And I'll get to that more in a moment. But I got to earn something with that. I learned how to work hard in the process. If you are going to work with numbers, if numbers are going to work for you, you have to work, and you have to work hard, right? It all starts there. So what do you do after you earn money? You spend that stuff, right? Like, let it go, right? So it starts with spending. So if I'm your financial advisor, the first question I ask, how much do you make, right? Then I ask you, what are your bills? This is simple stuff, right? Like, everybody's getting this? Okay. How much are you going to spend? But the problem is, in North America, the average American is spending 136% of what they make. And the numbers people are going, oh my gosh. The non-numbers people are going, what does that mean? Right? You're going, I know that's a lot. How much? That's like you make 60 grand a year, but you live on 80 grand a year. And now you're going, where'd that other 20 come from? Exactly. It comes from your credit card, and it comes from your home equity line, and it comes from everything else, and it's all debt, isn't it? And Americans are finishing each year more in debt than when they started. Something's got to break, right? Something's got to give. 70% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. Did you know that? They don't know if they're going to make it for 1 week. 1 week. One broken car part or flat tire, one medical emergency can wipe them out and send them into a tailspin of debt This is not good. This is not good at all. We need to learn how to budget our spending. And budgeting can sound like a bad word, can't it? But budgeting is actually not a bad thing. It doesn't mean you have to eat ramen. It doesn't mean you have to drive a Prius. It doesn't mean you have to those things don't matter, okay? Hey, I drive a Prius. Okay, that's cool. I like you. You're cool. Just watch out for the Hummers because they like to take you out. All right. But we all have to have a budget. It doesn't mean you have to restrict yourself because you write the budget. But at the end of the day, a budget is simply just telling your money where it should go, right? Instead of dropping money on things that you don't necessarily need, just put it in the essentials, and then when you have your budget all done, you actually might have money left over. Imagine that. That's pretty incredible. So what do you do? What do you do if you have money left over? For some of you, you're like, I don't know, never been there, right? I just have no idea. Well, once you're done budgeting, at the end of the day, you should actually have savings. Don't you feel good when you have a savings account and there's actually money in it? Don't you sleep a little better at night? Isn't it a good feeling when you get a flat tire and you just go, yeah, whatever, I'll just pull out the money and do it? Isn't that a good feeling? Instead of going, oh my gosh, I have to pick up another shift, I have to sell a child or a kidney or something, It's a good feeling to know that you can sleep at night because you have this savings, right? We should do that. It's a godly principle. We should all be savers. And then after you're saved up a little bit, here's where it starts to get fun, where we get to do some investing. Investing. How many of you work? How many of you get paid? And then you work again, and then you work some more, and then you get paid. Imagine if you worked and got paid, and then you took some of that money and you put that money to work, and it got paid too. That's investing. You work for money, and your money works for money, and all of a sudden you're double dipping, baby. That's some good place to be, right? And now you can earn money for retirement. Now you can earn money for a college scholarship or save up for that new car so you don't have to make payments. Which, by the way, I'm not telling you can't buy a new car, but let me just put the math into perspective for you, okay? The average car payment is $485 a month. Did you know that? Some of you guys are going, oh my gosh. And some of you guys are going, yeah, so what? Okay, $485 a month. If you took that $485 a month and put it into an investment account over the course of your life, if you start in your 20s and you end in your 60s, that $485 a month is worth about $5 million. That's a really expensive car, don't you think? Like, think about it. You don't have to have the new things. So, because here's what budgeting and saving and investing is. Saying no now so you can say yes later. Saying no to the new cars, the new pair of jeans, the whatever now, so that one day you can do that and you can do it from a healthy financial position. That's what the numbers are. That's just numbers only. And then finally, and from a worldly perspective, the last piece comes in is giving. Once you've earned, once you've spent, once you've saved, once you've invested, after all of that is done, whatever is left over, you can be charitable out of that. And that's a very worldly perspective on giving. Some advisors would tell you that you should give, but minimally, only enough to maybe get the tax write-offs, things like that. Now, I know some good financial advisors, and they'll help you get the giving right up to the top, like God has called us to. But this is kind of just the numbers only. But here's what I'd like to do today. Instead of just going in this order, I'd like to flip some of it around. Because if we want to go beyond the numbers, we need to invite God into the financial side of our lives, don't we? We do. We need to invite him in. So if we're going to go beyond just the numbers, we need to flip some things around. So in God's word, as we read the Bible, he teaches us about a couple of things. And one of the first things financially that he talks to us about is our giving. So instead of putting that on the bottom in the leftover column, we put it at the top. We put it as the number one priority because it takes zero faith to give out of the extra, doesn't it? But it takes a whole lot of faith to give first. And that's a challenge that I've faced in my life, and I'm sure you face too. Instead of giving out of the excess, why don't you give right in the beginning? And the Bible calls this a tithe. A tithe, the word tithe literally means 10%, but it's more than just 10 percentage points of your 100% earning. It's the first 10%. And the order matters. When we put that first, here's what we're doing. We're inviting God to go beyond the numbers and all the rest of it. When we don't invite him in first, he doesn't work in the rest of it. We can't go beyond the numbers. Maybe you're like this verse in Haggai. This is where I've found myself, and maybe you found yourself. Check it out. Now, this is what the Lord Almighty says. Give careful thought to your ways. So we're budgeting, we're putting things in order. Financially, we're putting things in place. You have planted much, but you have harvested little. You ever been there before? You invest in something, you're saving money, and it still feels like you're broke all the time. You have planted much and you've harvested little. You eat, but you've never had enough. And he continues, you drink, but you never have your fill. You put on clothes, but you are not warm. And then look at this one. You earn wages only to put them in a purse with holes in it. It's like there's holes in my pocket, and every time I put money in my pocket, it just disappears. You got that pair of jeans too? Yeah? Sometimes all the numbers, we do the numbers right, but it still isn't working. We've got our budget, we've got our savings, we're trying to invest, we're trying to be generous, but things are out of order. And God tells us, hey, give careful thought to your ways. Make sure you're going not just to the numbers, but beyond the numbers. Now, if you're struggling with the numbers this morning and you say, you know what, TJ, the income and the spending and the budgeting and the investing, I don't really know how to do that. We have a class for you here at the Shore. It's called Financial Peace University. We're going to kick it off in January, and I can tell you that's going to change the way you look at finances and ultimately help you get on the right track on how to get your budgets back in order or start one in the first place, right? If you have a little bit of a savings and you don't know how to invest, this is a place to go. It's a class for you guys. If you want more information about it, just pull out your Connect card on the back. You can write Financial Peace University. We'll send you information about when that's coming. Deal? Deal. Okay. Now, this right here, we've been working the numbers and it's not working. It's time for us to go beyond the numbers, okay? And so here's what we're going to do. I'm going to give you 5 points on how to go beyond the numbers. It's not just dollars and cents, but there's something more involved in the midst of this. So number one, if you're taking notes, go ahead, write these down. Calling versus compensation. With the financial engine called your life, it all starts with one thing, earning, doesn't it? You got to make money so you can spend money, so you can give money, so you can be generous with your life. We all know that. But the problem is when compensation becomes the only thing in your life. You see, there's a calling on all of us from God, and then there's compensation. And compensation will lead you places that your calling won't necessarily lead you. Your compensation will call you to leave the city God's called you to. Compensation can take you away from family. Compensation can take you away from your church home. And many people chase that dollar their entire lives only to realize that they missed their calling in the midst of it. I don't want that to be you guys. I've seen in my own life the balance of compensation versus calling. You see, when I was in high school, I told you, my job was to work summers, and so I worked as hard as I could. From the time school got out till the time I went back to school, I worked. But then beyond, for the school year, it was grades, and I was a rower. I was on the crew team in high school. And when I did that, I was earning college scholarship. And as I graduated high school, I got offered a full-ride scholarship to college, and so that those hours that I put in turned into about $100,000 in scholarships. That was a good investment for me, wasn't it? Yeah, but here's the problem. It wasn't my calling. It wasn't my calling. It was compensation, but it wasn't my calling. And after my senior year of high school, God put something in my heart that wasn't about compensation, but it was about calling. And it changed the course of my life forever, for the better. It changed the way I look at the world around me, because he put a calling on my life to not just make money, but to make a difference. And I think God has a similar calling to all of you. That doesn't mean we won't make money, but it does mean that we need to make difference. If you're making money without making a difference, maybe it's time to reevaluate where the calling is. Because compensation is all about the dollars and the cents, but calling is all about making that difference that God has called you to. And God has something on all of us that is for that. Look what Paul said, or what's written about Paul in the book of Acts. However, I consider my life worth nothing to me, if only I may finish the race and complete the task the Lord Jesus has given me. The task of testifying to the gospel of God's grace. He has a calling. He has a passion. He goes, all this other stuff, all the compensation, all the other things, all the packages and the benefits and the 401ks, those things are okay, but you know what? I know that if I follow this calling, I'm going to find fulfillment in my life. And that's my story. I was set up to go a certain direction, and God said, no, that's not your calling. That's a compensation, that's a career. And if you're chasing those things, I'm not bad-mouthing you, but I do want to make sure that if you have a career, make sure it's your calling. Because at the end of your life, you don't want to sit back and go, man, I made a lot of money, but I didn't make any difference. we have to pursue a calling. A calling. Our church is organized around calling. We don't want to have someone in a position in serving in ministry or whatever the case may be, wherever in our church is. We don't want them organized around what we need them to do. We want it organized around what they feel fulfilled doing. And so every one of us has a calling. And we want you to discover that calling with us as a church and then use that calling to change the world around you. That's why we started our growth track classes. And we just finished up in November our 4 weeks of growth track classes. And in January, we're going to start another set. And in that class, we help you discover calling. Now, at the end of the class, will you know what you're supposed to do for the rest of your life? No, that'd be lunacy. I couldn't say that. But I can get you in the right direction by discovering your gifts and your passions and your talents that God has given you. We can help you do that through that series of classes. And people who have gone through that class, I've seen them just blossom in their ability to find calling and change the world. People that come to me to the class and they go, you know what, I'm really just shy and I just want to sit in the church and maybe I'll help set up or something. I'm not a leader, right? I've got a couple people that have told me I'm not a leader. Now they just lead everything, right? It's pretty awesome. And God has put a calling on their life and he's developed them into something. Why? Because calling is so much more powerful than compensation. You'll do things for calling that you would never do for compensation, wouldn't you? Because God is just absolutely could change the world through you from a calling, but not through a compensation, all right? Number two, second thing is this. It's contentment versus consumerism. Contentment versus consumerism. And this is how these two things differ. Consumerism judges your life based on what you don't have. Contentment judges your life based on what you do have. You see the difference? Consumerism is what you don't have. It's a deficiency. Contentment is what you already have. It's a sufficiency. And advertisers want to, especially in this season, make sure that your consumerism goes off the charts. They want to show you what you don't have, don't they? They want to show you the new car, the new house, the new clothes, the new whatever, how much your family's going to love you because you spent all this money on all these presents for them, right? They want to make sure that you are consuming, and they are forgetting the whole contentment thing because that doesn't sell, right? So we're coming into a season that it's all about the consumerism. It's all about what the deficiencies are. In my own life, I've experienced this. Have you ever been driving around in your car and it's a perfectly fine car and you like it until you start shopping for new cars? And all of a sudden your car is gross and yucky and old and dirty and the paint doesn't look as new as it used to. And did it ever happen to you guys? That kind of stuff happened to me. When we first started the church, I mean, Leah and I didn't have 2 nickels to rub together. It was ridiculous, right? And so we scraped up enough to get rent a condo. Started renting a condo that was far too small for our family, but we had our own place and we were happy, right? Like, yes, we're living on our own, we're good. Then after the condo, we went through there a while, it was too small. And so we went to a bigger house, and we loved to rent. It was a rental. We moved in, we rented that place. And for a couple of years, we were excited about all of it. We loved that it had more space. We loved that it had a backyard. We bought a swing set. We loved the location. I mean, we loved everything. And then one day we decided, well, maybe we should buy a house. Let's take our savings that we've been making and invest in a house. And so we decided to buy a house. And all of a sudden, as I started to look at houses, my house looked pretty cruddy. I used to like this kitchen, but this kitchen's not as nice as that kitchen that I saw in the pictures. I used to like this tile floor, but I would really like the wood floor in that house. I used to like this, but now I like that. Does that make sense to you guys? What happened in my mind? I was content until I started looking at my deficiencies and I began to consume. And I realized this one day in my head. I go, oh my gosh, I've turned into a consumer. I need to shift the way I've been thinking. And so I went home and I deleted the real estate app off my phone and my iPad, and all of a sudden, my house wasn't so bad anymore. Because I had nothing to compare it to. Think about that. All the things in your life, in general, are probably really not that bad if you stop comparing it to what everyone else has. Your house, your family, right? Or if you're going to make a comparison, go overseas. It changed my life when I went overseas. It changed my life when I went on mission trips to help other people. And the kids that I would see in the street with a worn-out soccer ball, happier than any kid in the U.S. I've ever seen with an Xbox 360 Gold Edition, whatever thingy, right? Like I don't know, but they are so excited. They just you go out there and you play ball with them, and they're so happy. Why? Because they're content. They don't have anything to compare themselves to, right? But here we are, we've been marketed to, I've been marketed to my entire life. Everybody's telling me all the things I don't have and all the things I need to have. And all of a sudden, I've grown up with a consumerism mentality, and it's time to flip it and really begin to understand, wait a minute, God's already given me enough. I need to have a contentment mentality. And that's so, so important this time of year, isn't it? Because we're going to get the push. Because Christmas shopping's getting hard. Walmart's got a credit card. You put it on credit, people, right? Just consume. Look what Jesus says in Luke chapter 11. Don't always be wishing for what you don't have, for real life and real living are not related to how rich we are. Real life and real living are not related to how much stuff you have, the house you have, the car you have. Real life and real living are so different from that. It's time for us to look at life a little differently. Philippians chapter 4, verse 12, the Apostle Paul writes this. He says, I know what it is to be in need, and I know what it is to have plenty. You've been in both of those, haven't you? You've been in need, you've had plenty, and I have learned the secret of being content in any and every situation, whether well-fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or in want. He says, the things going on around me, the stuff, whether I'm hungry or not, whether I have a lot or a little, have nothing to do with have nothing to do with whether or not I am content in life. It has nothing to do with that. It's an internal struggle. Contentment starts here. It's not about all the stuff. Now, I've heard the phrase, money can't buy you happiness, but it sure can put a good down payment on it, right? Like you guys have heard that before? And it's true. There's a lot of cool things that money can do if we use it well. But if we use it poorly, how many know when you start spending, it actually becomes a trap? And I've felt the sting of living in debt, the lack of freedom. I got everything I wanted and felt trapped in the meantime. You been there too? Whether it's a payment or a debt that you can't pay back, something like that. We need to change our attitude from consumerism to contentment. Number 3, God-dependent versus independent. God-dependent versus independent. 99.9% of the time, a savings account is a good thing. 99.9% of the time. It's a godly thing. Having an account that you can lean back on if the car breaks down or there's a medical something, those things are great. But that last 0.1% that it's negative is when you trust in that savings account more than you trust in God. It's because you start to lean on your independence more than your God dependence. And we start to say, you know what, I'll build my life in such a way that I don't need God to come to the rescue because I'm on my own. And we live in independence instead of a God dependence. Look what it says in Proverbs chapter 18, verse 11. The wealth of the rich is their fortified city. They imagine it a wall too high to scale. They're building the fortresses. And in essence, when we have a poor view of finances, now again, is it bad to have money? No, it is not bad. It's bad when money has you. It's bad when you forget God in the midst of it. Does that make sense to everybody here? This is not a sermon against having money. This is a sermon that is telling you, don't forget your God dependence. Don't grow with independence, grow with your God dependence. And so when we rely on our money, we think of it as like a shelter, that, oh, nothing evil can get to me, nothing bad can get to me, because I have all the resources to make sure that I can be healthy and wealthy on my own. And that's a dangerous place to be in, because if you want to do it on your own, I believe God will let you do it on your own. And you'll push God away. I want to be on the other side. I want to be on the God-dependent side. Because in my life, the only thing that keeps me close to Him sometimes is when I'm desperate. You been there? Like you kind of forget about God until you get desperate and you're like, oh my gosh, I need that, right? I need that desperation. I think God puts us in a sweet spot sometimes where we're not poor, but we're not overly wealthy to forget about Him. In fact, Proverbs chapter 30, verses 8 and 9 say this. This is from a guy named Agur, and he wrote this: give me neither poverty nor riches, but give me only my daily bread. You've heard that phrase before, my daily bread? When Jesus taught us how to pray in the Lord's Prayer in the New Testament. Otherwise, I may have too much and disown you and say, who is the Lord? I don't need him. I'm sufficient on my own. I am independent. Or I may become poor and steal and so dishonor the name of God. I may go into poverty and not bring glory to your name, God. But keep me in the middle. Keep me in a place where I'm dependent on you, God. And that's where our church lives, and that's where a lot of us live. And that's our goal, isn't it? To be in a position where we're more God-dependent than independent. Statistically speaking, we can see this true in the giving on different levels of income. If a person makes under $20,000 a year, percentage-wise, they are the most generous people in our nation. Did you know that? And the higher up you go in your income, the less percentage-wise you begin to give. That's interesting, isn't it? If you make $20,000 a year or less, you're going to give a higher percentage than the person who makes $1 million a year. Why is that? Because once we have stuff and have that, we begin to put it as a fortified city around us. And we say, you know what, no, I need to build a wall. I need to be more independent than God-dependent. And in doing that, we get a wrong view of money, and some of us have even wandered away from God in that process. Being God-dependent is far better than independent every time. All right, number 4. Let me I got this in one more point, and then we'll wrap it up. Stewardship versus ownership. If we want to go beyond the numbers, we have to change our perspective on money completely. If we look at money as this is my stuff and my things, and I'll throw God a tip every now and then, we've got a wrong perspective on money, don't we? Because ownership says it's all mine. Stewardship says it's all his, and I'm his investment broker. Like, he's given me all this money, and I need to get a return on his investment for him. Follow me on that one? So how do I do this? Well, I give a portion of it, like we talked about before, a tithe, to God's house to make a difference in our local church, in our city, and around the world. So we do that. Then I take the other 90% and I go, okay, God, since it's still not all mine, what do I do with this other 90%? You allowed me to get a new car. Well, can I use this new car to help someone else in some way? Last week, people used their cars to deliver Thanksgiving meals to families all over our city. That was a great way to use God's blessing, right? Or, God, you gave me a house. Maybe I can host people into my house and teach them about the love of God by hosting a connect group or a small group. Or I have enough extra money. I didn't have to pack a lunch today. I'm going out to eat. Great. Maybe you can take someone with you who doesn't know God so that you can influence their life for the gospel. Do you see what I mean? By taking the other 90% and using it for God's, to be used by God on even though it's yours, it's not really ours, it's his. And we steward all of it. And when he sees a good steward, he wants to pour out on you so that you can steward more and be more of an influence in the world around you. That's a great way to look at it. Stewardship versus ownership. Matthew chapter 13, verse 44. I love this little snippet of a verse. Jesus said this: the kingdom of heaven is like a treasure hidden in a field. There's something great and valuable out there for you. That's the kingdom of heaven. It's what God is calling you to do. When a man found it, he hid it again, and then in his joy went and sold all he had and bought that field. This is what's happening in our lives. Many of you this morning, are you beginning to discover something in God? A new way to look at your finances, a new way to look at calling, a new way to look at the direction of your life, and you're going, oh my gosh, that's pretty cool, but I've got all these other ties in my life. I've got all these other debts. I've got all these other career things. I've got this other things going on. This man found something great, and he sold off everything else. And he didn't do it begrudgingly. It says in his joy, he got rid of everything else. Why? Because he found something great in God. He found the kingdom of God, and he found a new calling, and he found a new joy, and he found a new peace, and he found something greater in the kingdom of God than he could have ever had on his own. So he sold everything else and bought that field. Does that make sense to everybody here this morning? There's something that God is calling you to, but sometimes we got to sell off something else to get there. There's something in your life that you probably need to cut out so that you can gain more of him and what he's called you to do. All right, number 5, this is our final point. Let me wrap it up with a couple more verses. It's generosity versus misery. Generosity versus misery. Have you ever met someone who's older along in years and they are just bitter? Like that crotchety neighbor growing up, right? You know that person? But have you ever met a person that as they get older, they're sweeter with time? You been there? Yes or no? Come and talk with me. Okay, good. Like growing up in Sarasota, I've had the privilege of meeting several people that were much, much, much older than me, because Sarasota, right? And I've noticed this trend that people are a lot like wine. Like over the course of time, either they get sweeter or they get bitter. There's nothing in between, right? And over time, I ask myself, why is it that some people get sweeter and some people get more and more bitter over the course of time? I think this is it. Because the world of the generous is expanding. The world of the generous, they're gaining friendships. They're gaining more relationships. They're gaining favor with others. They're gaining influence into the world of others. But the miserly, they're the ones living in misery because they try and keep everything to themselves. Everything is mine. I can't share. I don't want to. I'm not a generous person. And how many of you know a person wrapped up in themselves is a pretty small package? And they keep taking and taking, and their world is actually shrinking. I think if we're going to live a life that gets sweeter and sweeter and sweeter, it needs to be a life that we share our life with someone else. And it can be finances, it can be time, it can be talent, it can be influence, it can be encouragement. Whatever you have, be generous with it. Because when we do that, our life gets sweeter and sweeter and sweeter instead of more and more embittered. Because the miserly are the ones that are going to end up living in misery. But the world of the generous is continually expanding into their spheres of influence and friendships. And I can tell you that there's no dollar amount that you can place on the value of a good friend, right? Generosity is much better than misery. Acts chapter 20, verse 35. This is a quote from Jesus. The Lord Jesus Christ, Jesus himself said, "It is more blessed to give than to receive." I know you quoted that to your kids, or your parents quoted that to you when you were at Christmas time, right? And they were all jealous over what their brother or sister got, right? But it's true, isn't it? Yeah. I know as a parent, man, it is far more joy. I don't even want anything for Christmas. I just want to see my kids, like, open up a present. I just want to see the joy in their lives. And sometimes, isn't it hard to wait for Christmas, parents? Because you just want to see the face. You want to see the joy in them, right? And it is more of a blessing to give than it is to receive. And I think that's true in every area of our life, not just Christmas, not just the holidays or birthdays, but for every person in every area of our life. It is more blessed for us to be generous to them than it is to take and take and take and take. Let me leave you with this verse, 1 Timothy chapter 6, verse 18 and 19. The Apostle Paul is teaching a young pastor named Timothy how to communicate or what to tell his congregation. So this would be like Paul telling me, hey, TJ, tell the Shore Church this. Tell them to live this way. He says, command them to do good. Do good, right? Be rich in good deeds and be generous and willing to share. Why is he saying that? He's saying that because he knows that the world of the generous is growing, that their life is full of more joy and more peace than if they just kept it to themselves. And he continues, in this way, they will lay up treasure for themselves as a firm foundation for the coming age, so that they may take hold of the life that is truly life. Life that is truly life. There is a life that is promised to you by finances, by consumerism, by stinginess, by being a miser. There's a life promised to you. And you know what? It is a life, but it's not a good one. Because you are sucking the joy and the peace out of yourself when you say, you know what, I want this, I want this, I want this, I want this. I need that, it's all about me, it's all that I want. When we do that, we actually lose life. What Paul is referring to here in Timothy, he's saying there's a new kind of life. There's a God life available to these people. And it's your responsibility, Timothy, to teach it to them. Because there's a God life that's available to them, and that can only be found in one way, by sharing their life with someone else. And when they share their life with someone else, it begins to change everything. It changes the way we look at the world, changes our joy, changes our peace. And many of you have participated with that in seasons of your life. Maybe it's time to step it up a little bit more and ramp it up and see how much joy God could pour out in your life. I told you last week that some of our families here at the church delivered meals to families across our city, Thanksgiving meals, to get them ready for Thanksgiving. One family came to our growth track class that night. So they came to church, they delivered meals, and then they came to growth track. And when they walked in, man, they had these giant smiles on their face. They were just so excited. And I said, what's going on with you guys? Oh my gosh, we got to deliver 2 meals to 2 families, and it was incredible. And one of these families was a single mom. And they knock on the door of this mother-in-law suite on the side of a house where she lives. And she opens the door, and she's just crying. And she can't believe the generosity from one person to another that they would think of her. And she just kept saying, I'm doing the best I can. I'm doing the best I can. I'm doing the best I can. Because she felt like the world was stacked against her. And here we are, a couple of brothers and sisters in Christ, showing love to the world around us, saying, we know you're doing the best you can, and we're here to help. And this mom of the family gave a hug to this single mom and just held her for a moment. And she sobbed and just said, I'm doing the best I can, over and over again. Talk about an incredible moment for a family to experience. That the family that delivered, they will never forget that moment. Their son that they had with them will never forget the generosity that was shown through that. And many of you have been in a position where, you know what, I feel so far away from God. I feel like the deck is stacked against me. The numbers aren't working. Nothing's working. And I just feel so alone. Can I tell you this morning? I may not have a bag of food here for you this morning, but I can tell you, you're going to make it. And you are doing your best you can, and that's good enough for God. And He wants to meet you right where you are this morning. And He wants to see you full of peace, full of joy. And you may be struggling with the numbers. Put that aside for a moment. We can get help with that. But the most important thing that all of us need is a relationship with Him. Because when we have a relationship with Him, it begins to put everything else in place. When we have a relationship with Him, we can begin to take hold of the life that is truly life. And your life may be falling short right now. And maybe that's because God's not in the middle of it. So here's what I'd like to do. I'd like to be able to pray with you. And if you don't mind closing your eyes, bowing your heads, no one moving around, let's just take a moment to pray and seek God and ask Him to come into our lives. So today we're gonna ask Him to do a couple things. One, forgive us of the past, and to give us a new life, a true life in Him. With that, I'm going to pray, and you guys can repeat these words after me quietly where you are. We're going to pray this. Father, this morning I pray that you would give me a new life in you. Life that is truly life, a real life. A life full of hope, a life full of peace, a life full of joy. A life that is growing in generosity, God. A life that's growing in influence. And I pray now, Father, that you would forgive me of everything in the past and give me that brand new life in you. In your name we pray. Everybody says?